My parents kicked me out in 12th grade for being pregnant. 21 years later, they showed up uninvited to my doorstep. Let us see the child, Mom whispered, her eyes wet with fake remorse. Dad stood behind her, arms crossed, like a man doing me a favor. We just want to connect, he added. Family's family. I looked them up and down, and calmly opened the door. What they heard next turned their faces pale. A voice from inside called out. What child? What are you? My name is Cassidy Lennox, I'm 38. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. What happens when the ones who abandon you suddenly beg to be included in the ending they never earned? The air between us cracked with the weight of time. I could hear the microwave humming inside, the faint click of a teacup being set down. But their eyes were darting, trying to see past me into a home that had been built without them. No photos of a child on the walls. No toys on the floor. No evidence of innocence. Just me, and the life I made from ash and silence. Dad cleared his throat. Mom looked down at her hands. They were waiting for a reunion, a tearful moment, maybe even forgiveness. Instead, I stepped forward and said something I had rehearsed for 21 years, but never thought I'd get the chance to say aloud. You can't miss someone you chose not to know. Then I shut the door halfway, just enough to keep them guessing, and whispered one word that made Mom's knees tremble. Why? Mom's lips quivered when I said why, as if the word cracked a dam she'd built over 2 decades. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. You don't understand, she whispered. We were scared. You were 17. We thought we were helping. Helping? They threw me out with a garbage bag and a cheap umbrella during a thunderstorm. Dad finally spoke. We figured you'd get rid of it. It wasn't sustainable. It. Not him. Not her. Just it. I looked him dead in the eyes. You didn't even ask. His jaw clenched. You made your choice. Yes, I made my choice. To survive. I worked 2 jobs while finishing school at night. I lived in a shared flat with peeling walls and silverfish. I stitched my future together with duct tape and desperation. And not once did they reach out. No calls. No letters. No help. Just silence. Now, they stood on my porch like time owed them a reunion. You said what child? Mom finally said. Please, do you mean? A voice from behind me interrupted. Babe, you okay? My partner, Jordan, walked into view, tall, soft-eyed, holding a mug of jasmine tea. Mom's face twisted. Dad's eyes scanned him, confused. Then, understanding hit. There never was a child, I said quietly. Turns out, when you have no one, you learn to become everything you need. Dad stepped forward. Wait. So all these years. I nodded. All these years, you hated a daughter that never existed. You kicked out a girl for something that didn't happen. You built your guilt around a ghost. Mom began to cry. And I, for the first time in 21 years, smiled. You didn't lose a grandchild. You lost me. They didn't move. Just stood there, frozen on my porch, like statues crumbling under the weight of truth. So that's it. Dad finally asked. You just cut us out? I tilted my head. You cut me out first. Remember? Mom clutched her purse tighter, her voice suddenly brittle. But we're still your parents. Blood doesn't disappear. I stepped forward, letting the silence grow teeth. You're right, I said. Blood doesn't disappear, but wounds scar over when left untreated. Jordan stayed beside me, quiet, hand warm on my back. We thought we were doing what was best, Mom murmured. We thought you'd come back. I laughed. It slipped out like air after drowning. You expected me to come back? After being told I was a mistake? A shameful secret. They had once told my friends I went to boarding school. Told the neighbors I moved abroad. Told themselves I'd failed. But I didn't. I built a life without them. A home with no ghosts. A love with no conditions. You lost the right to see how strong I became, I whispered. You lost the right to be proud. Dad looked down. His voice cracked. We were wrong. I nodded. Yes, you were. Then I gently closed the door. Inside, Jordan wrapped me in silence, and we stood in the hallway, letting the moment settle. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. You're still our daughter. We still love you. I stared at it, then blocked it. Because love that abandons you isn't love. It's leverage. And I had finally learned to stop renting space to ghosts. The next morning, a letter was taped to my gate. No stamp, no return address. Just my name, written in the same shaky cursive Mom used when labeling my lunchbox in second grade. I opened it with steady hands. You're being cruel. Jordan didn't deserve to grow up without grandparents. We were trying to protect the family's reputation. Reputation. That word again. As if it were a crown they wore higher than love. You should have been grateful we even let you stay until 12th grade. 12 years old, and already counted as excess baggage. 17 and discarded like trash. I folded the letter neatly and fed it into the shredder. That afternoon, I went to the community center where I now worked as a counselor. Helped a scared teen girl apply for college behind her conservative parents' back. Walked an overwhelmed mother through her first therapy appointment. Held space for women trying to restart their lives with nothing but fire and willpower. And I realized something. I wasn't just the girl they kicked out. I was a soft place for others to land. I was what I needed back then. That evening, I stood outside and watched the wind dance with the autumn leaves. Jordan came home from her evening class, smiling. I got the internship. I hugged her tight, whispering, "You did this. You did it all." She looked at me, "Because you taught me how to fight without hate." That night, I got another message. From my aunt, "Your parents want to make amends." I replied with a single sentence. They'll have to make peace with the version of me that no longer needs them. Because this time, I wasn't seeking closure. I was living it. They didn't stop at the letter. Next came a call from an unknown number. Then another. Then one from a local number I recognized, my old neighbor, Mrs. Carroll. She left a voicemail. "Your parents are sitting in their car outside your house. It's been almost an hour." I didn't peek through the window. Didn't stir my tea. Just sat at my kitchen table, letting the silence cradle me. They were waiting for the girl they left behind. But I no longer owed them that version of me. Still, curiosity curled at the edges of me like smoke. I stepped out hours later, and they were gone. But there, on my porch, was a photo album. Our family, all the pictures carefully arranged. But I wasn't in most of them. Until the last page. A single photo. Me, 17, standing in front of the bus station, holding my suitcase. On the back, in Mom's handwriting, "I'm sorry we couldn't see you then." The guilt was heavy, deliberate, and it didn't feel like love. It felt like a rope tossed after I'd already learned how to swim. I took the album inside and placed it under the sink, not in a fire, not in a shredder, just out of reach, because I'm allowed to remember, and I'm allowed to forget. The next day, Jordan and I sat on the porch. She asked gently, "Would you ever let them meet me?" I paused and said, "Only if you ever want to see what cowardice looks like dressed in Sunday clothes." She grinned. "Then I'm good." But I could feel the wind shift. Something or someone wasn't done yet. They came back on Sunday. This time, I watched through the curtain. Same car. Same spot on the curb. Dad leaned against the hood like it still gave him authority. Mom clutched something to her chest. A dish, maybe. Pie? Bribery baked into crust? I didn't open the door. I opened the app connected to their utilities. 1 overdue notice. Then 2. The third was for the home insurance. I'd paid it monthly for years. With a swipe, I ended it. At 3:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Mom, we're here. Please come out." "Mom, we brought something for Jordan." "Mom, you don't have to forgive us. Just let us talk." I almost did. But then I remembered the voicemail from Jordan's 4th birthday. "We're sorry we can't make it. Things are tight right now. Maybe next year. And the next year. And the next." I opened the door slowly, not to let them in, but to let the moment hang. Their faces lit up, then froze. Because I wasn't alone. Jordan stood behind me, holding the envelope they'd left. She extended it out, arms steady. "You forgot this." Mom reached forward, but Jordan pulled it back. "It's not needed," she said softly. "We're okay without you." Dad blinked. "We're just trying to." "I know. I cut in. You're trying to feel better, not make things right. They left the pie on the steps. That night, I threw it out, still in the dish. Some things you don't unwrap, and some apologies spoil faster than others. But the cracks were starting to show in their world now, and one more push was coming. I didn't hear from them for 3 weeks. Then a knock. I peeked through the peephole. Mom was sobbing, mascara smudged down her cheeks. Dad stood stiff beside her, holding a folder like a shield. I opened the door halfway. This isn't about guilt, she began. It never is with you, I said quietly. Dad cleared his throat. Your sister's wedding is off. She said we're too toxic to be around her new in-laws. I almost laughed. Shocking. He pushed the folder toward me. It's the house. We're losing it. We thought we had more time. But the payments that I used to cover, I finished. They looked up at me with hollow eyes. 2 people who built a home on one daughter's back and set fire to the bridge behind her. We thought if you came home, helped just this once. Jordan walked into the hallway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She didn't ask who they were. She didn't need to. I stepped forward, holding the folder in one hand, my daughter's hand in the other. You asked me to grow up fast, I whispered. To survive without you. I did. So now you do the same. Mom opened her mouth to beg again, but I closed the door. Later, I slid the folder into the trash. Didn't even read it. Some documents only exist to make you feel responsible for the people who hurt you. I owed them nothing. Not a signature. Not a single cent. Just silence. But I wasn't done yet, because there was one final message they hadn't seen yet, and I'd scheduled it for sunrise. At 6:55 a.m., the sun poured across the windows of their crumbling porch. And at 7 o'clock sharp, every single contact in their neighborhood group chat received a notification. To whom it may concern, the mortgage guarantor has been withdrawn. The co-signer is no longer affiliated. Any requests for financial support should be directed to the homeowners. Warm regards, Jordan and me. It wasn't vindictive. It was clarifying. Because sometimes the only way to heal is to return what doesn't belong to you. Like misplaced guilt. Like forced responsibility. Jordan sat beside me on the couch, legs crossed, reading a book on her own birthday. Do you think they'll come again? She asked softly. I looked at her, brighter than the house I grew up in. Wiser than I had been at that age. No, I said. They only show up when they need something. She nodded, brushing crumbs off the couch. I'm glad they didn't come today. Me too. Because birthdays weren't about balloons or noise. They were about being seen. And this time Jordan was fully. I'd ordered a cake, her favorite, lemon with lavender icing. I even got the name spelled right. And as we sliced it together, I realized I didn't miss them. Not their apologies, their excuses, their silence. I only missed who I wished they had been. But that version of them? It never existed. And I no longer needed to perform grief for the absence of a fantasy. I lit the candles. Jordan made a wish. And for once, I did too. A small one. For peace. For truth. For never shrinking again, just to be tolerated. And in that moment, I felt the first breath of freedom I hadn't tasted in years.